The blue hard hats and khaki uniforms of the California Conservation Corps have become a familiar sight in California. Breaking trails, clearing streams, fighting floods, this organization of 1,800 young women and men has made its mark on the state. The Cs have hammered out a message of public service, hard work, low pay, miserable conditions. In return, they take with them a sense of pride and accomplishment that few people find in any job. The CCC has proved that it's not just another jobs program for needy youth. 11 states from Florida to Oregon are now considering the creation of similar programs. One of those who helped form the California Conservation Corps in 1976 was American historian Page Smith. We talked with Professor Smith at his farm near Santa Cruz, where he traced the underlying concept of the CCC to American philosopher William James.
James, I think, was terribly concerned by the Spanish-American War, and I think it made him sort of rethink the whole problem of the relationship of imperialism or expansion or aggressiveness or war to democracy. And when he came out to California in 1906 at the time of the earthquake, he gave a talk at Stanford called A Moral Equivalent of War, and it was clearly the fruit of James' concern about the disposition of a democratic society, specifically the United States, to be swept up in war hysteria. And James, in that talk, pointed out that war had traditionally brought out certain qualities that we admire: hardihood, self-sacrifice, loyalty, the desire to serve some larger purpose. And he said these qualities are not really given expression in peacetime. And therefore, he said in 1906, since war is so terrible now that we can't contemplate it as a way of giving expression to these qualities, we have to think of some moral equivalent to war that will draw on the most positive qualities that war has traditionally called forth.
None of you is ready for what's about to happen. I don't care what you've been through before. It is tougher work than anything you've done in the Corps before, bar none. Pushing granite that weighs 600 pounds all day long with this go, go, go attitude is going to wear you down physically. It's going to wear your fingers down. You're going to have purple fingernails and purple toenails. And your uniforms are going to be cut, and you're not going to have all the nice fancy showers and you know, the hard ground with rock on it is going to feel wonderful if and when you ever get a break. But tougher than the physical work is, can you and I get along as human beings? And all of you are going to go through some periods of growth and adjustment to each other that will stretch you further than anything you've ever been through before.
I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the challenge of it.
Well, it's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to live and work in the backcountry, you know. It's the kind of work I enjoy the most, being out there.
I want to get away from, you know, cars and all this man-made stuff and just go back where it's just like me and nature and just, you know, live in a tent and sleep outside and do hard work where everybody's into it, you know, where it's just not, some people just go out there and, you know, do it halfway. I want to do it all the way and do hard work and just, you know, challenge my body, you know, take it to the limit, see how much I could do.
These Corps members are part of an elite group, selected for the most challenging work the Corps offers, building trails in the high Sierras. Following their orientation sessions in Sacramento, they are working here in the Hetch Hetchy Valley, learning new skills before moving into the backcountry.
Well, work-wise, we're in the training phase. phase. I think it has the most mashed fingers, mashed toes, poison oak, that type of thing. Most blisters on the feet. It's also the stage where work moves fairly slowly, but learning moves very rapidly.
Like one section of riprap, you start with this big rock here, that's a keystone, okay? What we did is we put in a keystone at the bottom, a keystone here, another keystone, another keystone. We just broke the section up into small portions so people could learn, everybody could have their own little section and learn. Each rock, this rock has to have contact with this rock, this rock, this rock. Okay, that's how you'd place this rock.
Later on, we'll probably take a look at every rock, but we'll do that, you know, maybe at the end of the day when 10 rocks have been laid, 12 rocks have been laid. But right now, we take a look at every rock as it's put in so that, you know, a Corps member doesn't keep going, basing their continuing work on a mistake and having to tear out a lot of work.
For a while, at the beginning, I'd get maybe 2 rocks in, and then Tim would come by and pull them out because they weren't right anyway. And then I'd go home and I'd cry. And I'd come back and try it again.
Quite a few rocks get thrown out. Quite a few hours of labor get erased. But there's nothing you can do but put the rock back in better.
I look for a rock that's level on the bottom, so when you lay it down, it's not gonna go teeter-tottering back. It's gonna be pretty solid. First, I was frustrated. Now, when you lay a rock, it's a lot of satisfaction. It's worth it.
I didn't know quite what I was getting myself into when I came out here. I knew that I'd be working on trails. And right now, I'm at a point in my life where I don't care about the money. I'd rather do something that I enjoy doing. And if you ask me why I enjoy doing it, well, because it's something that's making all of me work at the same time. My mind and my body and also just being out here.
I build a section of trail so that it pleases me, and you know that it still has to have structural strength and all the functional aspects of the trail section have to be right. But if that trail section didn't look right to me, I'd get disinterested in it really quickly. Yeah, that's what keeps me going. One of these days, maybe I'll return to the homeland and build one of those stairs up the old temples.
Oh.
The mountains of California have seen another group of young people working under the initial CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, which did forestry, conservation, and construction work throughout the United States in the 1930s.
It was, of course, during the Depression. The Civilian Conservation Corps had been started as a relief measure for unemployed youth, and you had to sign a means. There was a means test. You had to sign a statement saying you were destitute in order to get into the Civilian Conservation Corps.
During the Great Depression, the original CCC was a vital part of Roosevelt's fight against unemployment. But some saw the potential to make the Corps into something more than a relief agency. A small group, including students from Harvard and Dartmouth, joined the CCC with the goal of expanding the program into the type of National Service Corps envisioned by William James in his essay, The Moral Equivalent of War. In 1940, Page Smith helped establish a new leadership training center called, appropriately, Camp William James.
We're the boys from William James. We have high and lofty aims. We're not reliefers or vacationists. We are human conservationists. From New York to California, we will build a new America. So swing your axes, raise your voices. He who works in truth rejoices. And I don't know, those relatively few months, it was hard looking back on it to realize how short a time we were actually involved because of the intensity of the experience itself, but it was obviously the crucial, the most important single episode in my life in a formative way.
One of the great accomplishments of the Civilian Conservation Corps was the construction of trails and facilities in wilderness parks. In many places, the young workers of today's California Conservation Corps are literally walking in the footsteps of the original CCC.
In the early 1900s, then again during the Depression when the former CCCs were up here building trails, they used the real good rock skills, and those were lost from the time the old CCC left the park until maybe 1970 when a guy named Jim Snyder started bringing back the old skills. He started looking at the way the old stuff was done and tearing it apart and seeing how the good stuff was built. The whole idea behind it is that if you build it right once, you're never going to have to build it again, at least not till the next glacier or till an earthquake or until something serious happens, if you build it solid. And it takes some pretty skilled rock building methods to do that. And that's what we're trying to teach these people, is to do it right.
The CCC doesn't bring heavy equipment into the backcountry. To cut rock needed for trail construction, Corps members use a manually operated punjar drill and a technique for splitting rock that dates back to the construction of the pyramids, plugs and feathers.
That's what you mean by fixing that crack? You're having this one farther back?
Yeah, that one's too... Yeah. This one needs to turn a little. All right. All right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. All right.
When we began talking about the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 70s, reviving it in some form, it was clear that it would have to be very different from the original Corps, that times had changed, that young people had different expectations and different perspectives on the world, and that whatever was done would have to be done in the light of those. At first it would have men and women in it, and not as in the original Corps, only men. Second, that it would be open to anyone who wanted to join it, and there would be no means test. You wouldn't have to say you were destitute in order to get in. Third, that there would be a much stronger and quite different emphasis on education. That if you're going to do conservation work, then the whole realm of environmental studies, ecology, and whatever that is there that really requires to be treated seriously.
This is not quite an alpine meadow, but it is a high meadow with a very short growing season. And this is a major trail that comes through here, feeder trail for the Pacific Crest Trail. And a lot of foot traffic and stock traffic comes in here early when the meadow is still wet. By elevating the trail, crushing rock in the middle, and then dirt on top, you allow the water to flow through your trail instead of down your trail, which is how the ruts are formed. The ruts aren't formed by people just walking. It's formed by people starting a little depression, the water flowing down the trail and creating a rut, which dries out a meadow and changes the whole environment of the meadow. So what we do is we allow the water to flow through the causeway and through the trail, and hopefully the meadow will return to the way it's supposed to be. Okay, the rocks aren't easy to come by right here. Okay, they're few and far between. And so what we did is we had a bunch of people, about half the crew went and spent about 2 days just bringing rocks down off the slope wherever they could find them. Okay, you can see there's people over there pulling rocks in, and they'll pull them that far, and then the mule will go ahead and pull them the rest of the way to the trail.
This project here is an excellent example of, I think, the beneficiaries of a project like this. Not only does it make hiking a little more enjoyable or safe, etc., this is, I think, has a definite benefit for the meadow. And it's a lot of acquired skills, too. The people that quarried it wouldn't know how to do that at the beginning of the season. They know how to do that now, though, well enough to make a stone bridge, and that's pretty good.
These people, they all got a good feeling for the environment, you know. They can learn a little more about the environment by having to build a trail through it, because the trail is unnatural all the way. But you can do it real sensitively, and it's really the only way to do it. And I think they like that idea. They take a little more pride in their work when they realize they're doing it to protect the environment, not just to get from one point to the other.
The trails are cool because this is for other people to come and enjoy this park and stuff, you know. Be able to come out and see the beautiful things there are here. Have a little access to them. And hopefully they're, you know, supposed to last at least 50 years from what we've been told. You know, that's good. I can bring my children back and stuff like that. Hike over our trails.
I can't hardly think of anybody on this crew that doesn't really put out 100% or more, you know, and it's pretty neat because a lot gets done. But like only one person left from up here, and I really don't think anybody else will leave. I think it was just like, she's a really hard worker, but I think for up here, maybe not a hard enough worker, you know? It's like up here, it's sort of like, you gotta be really good. It's like a high standard, and our supervisor, like, he won't even tell us we're doing good unless we're doing absolutely great, you know? It's just like, you gotta work really hard up here.
I think this is gonna be about the hardest a lot of these people work for their entire life. And while they're doing that, it's not an easy thing to do day after day. And you have to set a pace to be able to do that. You have to have a lot of determination to be able to do that. I think they learn the importance of quality in their work. These projects here are built to stand until some natural force takes them away, or, you know, for maybe a century or so. They're built for a long time, and the building materials rock, and so the craftsmanship is the only thing that would limit the durability of the causeway or the riprap. And I guess this seems maybe too basic, but every morning, you know, they get up, and on time they get to work, and so they're real dependable now. You can count on them to be there, and you can count on them to do a good job.
My concept of the CCC was to provide an experience, a rite of passage for young men and women in this state that would be based on fundamental values, values such as reverence and respect for the natural systems, and also for the growth from adolescent self-preoccupation, the transition to adult recognition of the need for responsibility, shared vision, and working for the entire community.
I feel that that the notion of sacrifice or of service is the most important aspect of social existence. And it seems to me all real progress. I see history as tending inevitably downward, and we're only saved from destruction, degeneration, and disaster by great spirits who really give their lives and energies to counteracting this downward tendency. But there really is this impulse to service, and that's really very closely related to what we began talking about, that James said was previously expressed in most strikingly or most typically in war. In war you made sacrifices, even your life. You underwent great hardships, you did all kinds of things above and beyond, as we would say, the call of duty, because the situation demanded it. Then when peace came, you thought, well, thank God that's over, and you didn't really think thank God, because most people kept a lingering affection for it. That's why they're veterans organizations, because they preserve that sense that there was a moment in the lives of people that was somehow exalted in what we might think of as a regrettable and often terrible way, but nonetheless they were caught up in something that gave them a higher vision than mundane society could give.
In order for the human spirit to prosper, there has to be pressure, there has to be risk, there has to be a tremendous push against the individual or the society, and then the response to that external challenge is what creates the nation or the group or the individual. And war often plays this part in mobilizing the creative and the destructive energies of people. I see the CCC as certainly a moral equivalent of war in the sense that James wrote about. It's on a modest scale, it'll have to be expanded, but it does go in the direction of creating the kind of societal rite of passage, challenge, and learning opportunity that a society needs if it is to form itself as a coherent body and not as a fragmenting, socially disintegrating group of disconnected individuals, which I believe is the risk of modern society.
I was pretty loose and pretty rowdy and just, just totally undisciplined, just rambunctious to the max and just not knowing where I was going. Now, I didn't care either. That was probably the whole thing, is just I didn't care. Now, I'm starting to care for my life a lot more. And
we've worked in a good crew. We have a good crew, and we've learned to work together and get it done well. And it's such a good feeling when you see your production and everybody working together, everything getting done well.
When they first gave me the Punjar to run, I wanted to run it all right, but then they put this machine in your hand. Okay, well, go cut some rock, and you God, can I really do this? Can I really do this? And you go through this whole traumatic thing within yourself, and then you just go and you do it, and then the next time, okay, well, you're gonna lay wall rocks, so I want you to lay these gigantic rocks, and you go through this whole thing over again. God, can I do this? Can I do this? And pretty soon you're faced with this question all the time, like I think I always will be. Can I really do this? I've never done it before. Can I do this? But I think that I realized, yeah, you probably can, Just go ahead and try it.
I work for the Seas. I'm pretty proud of it, I love this state, and it's just I go up there working, and that's probably the best thing. It's just because I see all this beauty out there, and it just makes me feel so good, to serve the state.
When you're working in something that matters, it really matters, and it matters, and it's going to make a difference to the earth and, generations that come later, then you should really, feel pride in your work. Like sometimes I'm working, it sounds really corny, but I'll get tears in my eyes because I think how great it is and how proud I am of it, and I'll just, and I'd like to help other people that it's going to be in the CCC develop this.
What we want, or what the Seas want, is we want to do the work, we want it to do it the best we can, and there's some people that are just looking sometimes for a way out, or they're looking to find something. If they're looking to find something, they're going to find it. But if they're just looking for a way out, you know, easy street type of thing, it's not the seas, because, you know, we come to work. That's what we do. We work.